Well, Virginia Key has the dubious distinction of being Miami's first colored-only beach, which also makes it a place of history worth preserving. And that's exactly what the trustees of Virginia Key Beach are trying to do, and working to shield it from local lawmakers who have other ideas about how some of the prime property should be used. Their plan to build an enclave of tiny homes for the homeless. As of now, the proposal is tabled, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be pulled off the table permanently. I traveled to the beach to talk it over with trustees Guy Forchion and Patrick Range.
And so where was the encampment site? What are they proposing? What area?
Oh, it is on the other side of the island.
So on the other side of the island. How big is the island?
1,000 acres.
Okay.
We're 82 acres. We have about a mile of shoreline.
Okay.
It's about a mile, probably from where we're standing.
To some, it's hallowed ground, a stretch of beach with a rich history.
Why is this significant? Why is this so significant, this location?
Well, I mean, we just celebrated our 77th year of the creation of this park, what was the colored-only beach for South Florida. So this is where all communities of color came together during segregation. So we're talking about a heart and soul location for recreation, for calm and spiritual opening and unwinding. There were many churches that came to this space, baptisms that took place here. So it's really a spiritual spot for South Floridians of color. We've been fighting very hard for the last 20 years to bring it back, reopened the park in 2008. It's a park for everyone today. And I mean, we have over 100,000 visitors per year. And so there's a huge component of the community that knows and loves this place. But certainly with the vote that just took place, I think there's more education that needs to happen.
This is the plot of land where certain Miami officials want to use as the site of an encampment for a cluster of tiny homes for the homeless. The plan, first proposed by Commissioner Joe Carollo, is to build between 50 to 100 structures and relocate hundreds of people from the streets of downtown Miami to the barrier island.
I think first and foremost, my grandmother, the late Ashley Range, would be turning over in her grave to know that the time and effort that she and so many others expended to have this place be preserved as really one of the only bastions of our history, here in the city of Miami. I think she would be terribly disappointed and would fight with everything in her power to ensure that something like this would not happen and potentially impede upon, the work that so many have put into making this place what it is today and what it will, what it will be. So absolutely, I think there's no question that this is not the place for an encampment because it naturally takes away from the historical significance of what we are and what we've tried to establish here, and even perhaps places it in jeopardy. And so I think that's a concern for us going forward, that the efforts that we have and so many have put forth would be in jeopardy.
Miami Commission Chairwoman Christine King is the only African American on the panel and supports the Virginia Key relocation plan. Last summer, she said her district has most of the city's homeless, and she doesn't feel taking care of the problem should just fall on her shoulders or her district's alone.
To say that it doesn't fit within the Virginia Key master plan, homelessness doesn't fit in anyone's master plan. It just is.
The plan has since been put on hold, but it had advanced to a vote, even before many who should at least had a say, like Guy and Patrick, got a chance to make their voices heard.
When you first heard about what was going on, your thoughts?
Unbelievable. Could not understand how, why, where, when. Just questions flooded my mind. Not having heard anything about the proposition and having worked for the city many, many years ago, particularly during the time of the moving of the Camillus House, I remembered or instantly recalled how intense that discussion and process was, for moving Camilla's house at that time. And so when I first heard inklings about the city talking about some ways to deal with the homelessness issue, it took me back to those days of moving to the Camilla's house. And I remembered all of the deliberation and research and time that went into, and controversy that went into making that decision. And so I saw a similar path.
Were you surprised by the way that some particular commissioners vote?
I was. I was surprised, first of all, that there was a vote. Because when I did get wind of it being on the agenda, my understanding was that it would be a discussion item, and a discussion item only. Having worked for a commissioner years ago, I was familiar with discussion items, and thought that maybe made sense that they would have a discussion about the homelessness issue and about what it would take to resolve it. For it to have moved as quickly as it did and then moved to an action item, that was the first shock. So the fact that it was even going to be voted on that day was extremely surprising to me. So before even getting to the commissioners and how they each voted, the fact that they even voted, to me, seemed to be absurd.
The tiny house program has shown some success in other big cities across the country. That's thanks in large part to location, location, location. Getting people who are homeless and resources they may need are not available on Virginia Key Island. At the core, there's no infrastructure, meaning electricity. Plumbing would have to be installed, and the enclave would be located some 2 miles from Rickenbacker Causeway, the closest stop for public transportation.
But what about those that say that are for it? That say, oh, come on, it's far enough away from everything. It's far enough away from the businesses. It's going to be far enough away. It's not going to interrupt or interfere with this. What do you think about that argument?
One, I think it's something that really isn't appropriate on this island, and for a lot of different reasons, and not just operational and resources for let's face it, a very vulnerable community that needs a lot of services that are not here. They're a very long way from here. But that would be something that would remain to be seen on if that even came to this location, how would it be done? And we've heard a lot of speculation of different things, but overall, it's really just not an appropriate place for that and on this island.
Why do you believe they chose Virginia Key Beach? Why here?
Very curious, very curious. I think certainly Virginia Key provides some things that other communities don't. Open space, green space, and a separation from most of the residential communities in the city of Miami proper. Here on Virginia Key Island, there are no residents. So I think those things are those are the only things I could imagine that would have made this space attractive.
Other locations on the list for consideration: a piece of property on 71st Street and Northwest 5th Place, a city parking lot near Camilla's house, and a plot of land in Allapattah at 24th Street and Northwest 7th Avenue. Simply moving the problem from downtown and dumping it on the island won't solve the homeless problem. A trustee saying Virginia Key has already done its part when it comes to providing certain types of support services.
I didn't even realize that Virginia Key already has a municipal garbage dump, a sewage treatment facility, and a staging area for disposing of hurricane debris already. Considering all that, it's like, okay, whenever there's something wrong or something we got to get rid of, let's come over here. Let's dump it over here.
Well, this island has had that history, and I don't think that's been by coincidence or mistake. This was the colored-only beach. I don't think that when the sewage treatment plant was built, that the fact that this was the colored-only location was something that they said, hey, it's okay to put it there. I would imagine that's something that was considered back in that day. Hurricane debris, the city has a great number of acres on this island. There's a North Point section, and that is a location where a lot of things have been stored in the past. I mean, unfortunately, the island has been treated somewhat as a dumping ground. There are materials that were dug up from Port of Miami as extra spoil needed to be dredged out that were deposited here. We've put that to use. That allowed us to create a coastal dune that protects the property. So there's good and bad that can come out of a great deal of things, but the city has been using it in a way that I think if it looked at this place as Miami Central Park, then maybe they would take a lot more time and decisions on what they placed here.
Maybe while the issue is on pause, officials will take time to learn more about the value of Virginia Key's past, present, and future.
We would love for folks to, and a number of our citizenry obviously have embraced us and really feel that this is home. And so we would want more persons from the community to feel that way, and to embrace us, to come and enjoy the fruits of what is here. There is so much that is here to be taken advantage of, not only in terms of a recreation space, which we have always been. There's opportunities for youth to come and recreate through different things that we have here in programs and so forth. There are educational opportunities for the environmental gym that we are here as well as the historical gem, and all of the wonderful stories and time spent here